This is week 4 in the weekly challenge to build your confidence in having the sex talks. Did you take the time to answer the 10 questions from last week's video? And if you're co-parenting, were you able to have a chat with your co-parent on how they answered the questions and compare your answers? It's crucial to know what your values are and how you want to share those values with your kid. Before we go into this week's challenge, I want to address one of the questions from last week, which was, do you agree or disagree that it is acceptable to undress or shower in front of your child? Some of you agree that it is acceptable for a child to see their parent's naked body in a non-sexualized way, while others said that they disagreed and that it's unacceptable for a child to see their parent's naked body in a non-sexualized way. Whether you agreed or disagreed based on your own values from your religion, culture, or upbringing, all parents, including you, will need to create boundaries in the home around changing, showering, and closed doors at some point in time. For some parents, that may be very early in their child's life, whereas for other parents, it may be when their child comes to them and says, I don't feel comfortable being in your room while you're getting dressed. Boundaries will be made at some point in time, and those boundaries will need to be respected and maintained in order to create a safe and comfortable environment in the home for everybody. I'm Kathleen, and I make videos for parents on how to have the modern day sex talks. I received this question from a parent. What's a good phrase to create a boundary with your curious toddler who wants to touch parents' private parts? I'm assuming that this parent's value is that it is acceptable to get undressed or shower in front of their child and that they feel comfortable being naked in front of their child. However, the child has noticed the genitals and they're interested in it. And it's probably because those genitals look different from their own. They have a natural curiosity to look and try to make sense of what they're seeing, and this may include touching them. To put this into a different perspective, as a parent, I noticed when my kids were toddlers that they had no real fear or concern that something they touched could harm them. They used touch as one of their senses in order to better understand the world that they're in. However, I had to create a boundary with them, especially around the stove when they wanted to help me cook. I had to specifically explain to them what they could and could not touch when they helped me cook, because it could possibly cause harm to them, and they haven't yet developed the skills to use those utensils or appliances safely. So in this scenario, the toddler is touching their parents' genitals because they're curious and there's been no boundary put in place yet. So how do you establish a bodily boundary with your young child without making them feel like they've done something wrong? That's this week's challenge. Establishing a bodily boundary is easy to do and goes hand in hand with using consent language. For example, have you been asking your toddler for a hug or kiss? If you've been using consent language when you want to give them a hug or kiss, then they'll start to understand that when it comes to touching their body or another person's body, asking them to touch it is the respectful thing to do. That's the first step in developing bodily boundaries. The next step is respecting the response. If your child says no to you, respect it. Use words to show that you are acknowledging their no response. Saying something like, okay, you've said no to giving you a kiss, and I respect your no and your body. End that conversation and move on. Developing this language and using it on a regular basis will be more impactful on your child's educational learning about consent and bodily autonomy than having a sit-down talk about the definition of consent. So here's your challenge for this week. Establish a bodily boundary by using consent language. You can ask your toddler, primary, or intermediate age child, may I give you a kiss, a hug, a cuddle? Then wait for their response and say, I heard you say yes, and then go on to give them a kiss, hug, or cuddle. Now, if they say no, you can say, okay, I heard you say no to giving you a kiss, hug, or cuddle, and I respect your no and your body. And then start talking about something else altogether. If you have a partner who you feel comfortable modeling this language with, I would encourage you to try it out with them. You can ask them the same question, may I give you a kiss or a hug? This way your child can observe the body language as well as hear the words. By using consent language, you can establish bodily boundaries with your child from a young age. So going back to this question, you can say something to the effect of, please don't touch my genitals without asking me first. When I clean your genitals, I always ask you, may I touch your genitals in order to clean them? Please respect my body too. It's quite simple, and your child will understand, especially if you've been showing them bodily autonomy and respect when it comes to giving them hugs and kisses and cleaning their genitals. Now, if your child's in the middle or high school age range and you've never asked them for a hug or kiss, do it. It's never too late to start. Also at this age, you can respect the closed door by knocking first and asking to come in. This translates into respect for their body and space, and is such a simple way to respect a physical boundary. You can ask them if they're feeling comfortable or uncomfortable with the current boundaries that are in place in the home. For example, if you're getting dressed and your kid knocks on the door and you say, "Come in," are they comfortable seeing you naked? They may not want to see you naked. It would rather you say, "You can come in, but I'm still getting dressed." This allows for a dialogue with them around what the boundaries have been and whether those boundaries need to change. So that's your challenge for this week. Over the next 7 days, find an opportunity to ask your child for a kiss or a cuddle, or use consent language when talking with your partner so that your child can observe it being used. I'm Kathleen, and I'll be back next week with challenge number 5. In the meantime, I've been trying my hand at some of the shorts videos, so check them out and let me know what you think.